I think it's something that gets thrown around a lot because people have the experience of being sad for perhaps longer periods of time than they would really like or can easily tolerate. And so it makes sense that one might describe that experience as depression. But the fact of the matter is, if you can function, you're not actually clinically depressed. Part of the way that we define major depressive disorder is an inability to function in several areas of life, right? So if you're functioning, if you're going to work, if you're doing the things you need to do, by and large, you're just sad a lot, then you're sad a lot, but that is not actually clinical depression. And differentiating those two is really important.
You talk about how it's hard to function in certain aspects of life. What are some of those aspects in life?
So work or vocational pursuits, if you're having trouble getting up and going to work in the morning on a regular basis, that's a big aspect of life. Socially, if you don't really want to ever see your friends, you're canceling plans all the time, etc., that's a major area of functionality. Parenting for some of us can be a major area of functionality. Those are a few of the things that we think about when it's like, are you able to show up and just kind of live your life? Those are a few of the big ones.
Why is the term high functioning depression so commonly used?
I think, well, this is just my take on it, but we live in a society that leads us to believe that the only thing that we should be feeling is happy, that we chase happiness all the time, and we're quite feeling phobic in America. We don't like unpleasant feelings. We are told that if we are feeling upset, scared, angry, sad, anything that feels unpleasant to feel, that there's a pill for that, there's a coping activity for that, there's a hobby for that, there's a new marriage for that. We're just really feelings phobic. And so I think we all have this idea that if we're not happy, the majority of the time we're doing something wrong. And that's just simply not true. Research is really, really clear that over the lifespan, all of us feel loads of different things a lot of the time, and that's actually what's normal. But that's not how it gets messaged at all.
So it sounds to me like it can be really difficult to sort of land in that gray area of sadness or depression.
We all are going to feel sad at times, right? So we can't avoid that. If we never felt sad or angry or scared, whatever, we would be dead. Feelings are a part of the human experience, and sometimes unpleasant feelings are intense or last longer than we would like. But the really big important thing to know there is that when we try to push our feelings down, that's kind of like trying to get out of quicksand. And if you're in quicksand and you're trying to get out, you sink deeper. So when we try to not feel our feelings, when we try to get out of our feelings, we wind up intensifying the emotional experience. So the best thing we can do is be really kind to ourselves and others about, this is life. This is part of what it means to be human, is I'm going to experience sadness, and I should treat myself like I'm physically sick. When I'm sad, I should wrap myself up in a blanket. I should, have something that is soothing, that tastes good. I should expect less of myself and hopefully wake up and feel a little different because I let myself actually feel it and was just accepting of that experience.
Can problems arise from using that term high functioning depression or essentially being diagnosed with that?
If someone says that they are diagnosing you with high functioning depression, run. It's not a thing. That's not a real diagnosis. And it is problematic to use this term, because for those of us who've actually experienced a major depressive episode or struggle with recurrent major depression, I'm one of those people. Clinical depression is not something that you can just decide to be over. Going for a run or doing some yoga doesn't cure clinical depression. Treatment is what allows people to move past clinical depression. And so if all of us are running around saying that we have high functioning depression when we're just experiencing sadness, this is not only is it just inaccurate, but it also can really minimize the experience for somebody who's suffering with real diagnosable clinical depression, that they should be able to just kind of snap out of it when that's just simply not how it works. There's very real chemical changes happening when someone is experiencing clinical depression that you can't just get out of. It requires treatment. Whereas sadness, you can just be really nice to yourself for a day or two, go to bed, and likely feel better in the morning, right? But if that's not happening, if every day you feel terrible and it's getting harder and harder to do the things that you need to do, you might want to get some help.